Welcome back, everybody, to another round of the Crazyhouse World Championship. Today's match is featuring mastertan and international master opperwezen. And we've got an Evans Gambit. I think that's what this is, this line in the Italian. That's interesting. That's a really interesting choice from opperwezen right off the bat. Sacking this pawn on b4 to build a big center here with c3 and d4 with tempo, kicking that bishop away. Very interesting choice here from opperwezen. Very enterprising play. He's making a statement here about the sort of Crazyhouse he wants to play, the aggressive and dynamic sort of Crazyhouse he wants to play in this match. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's prepared this line. So let's see how mastertan decides to respond to this. He's quite solid, of course. He may have fallen a little bit behind in space and in development on account of grabbing that pawn on b4, but he shouldn't be any worse, of course, because he has compensation in the form of that material, that pawn. d5. We have a ton of tension already in the center, and opperwezen immediately releases it, capturing on d5. It looks like we're up and running here, and replaces that pawn on e4. He wants to maintain this big center. That's what this gambit line is all about, at least in chess, is building this big center and not relinquishing it. He captures on d5 again. Okay, he's allowing this f3 knight to drop, but he gets two pawns for it and also gets some tempo. He has to take here first, I think. Yeah, I don't think he wants to grab this knight and allow g2 to drop. But if you take with the queen here, you're probably going to get hit with a knight h4 or something. So that's what he's considering right now. Yeah, I think he does have to take there first. And now mastertan is probably going to come in with some sort of tempo on the queen. Knight h4 is the most immediately obvious. Maybe pawn at g4 is also possible. Okay, instead of hitting the queen immediately, he just moves the knight away. Maybe he was worried about... This is perfectly fine too as well, of course. You're hitting the bishop and you're getting this knight out of dodge. I'm covering this. Alright, knight e6. So if that's taken, then f7 is going to become quite devastating, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure about that decision to take with the f-pawn. But okay. He may survive here. He's going to block off this file with this pawn, so the queen no longer has access to this mating square. And if a pawn appears on f7, then that blocks that square from, say, a knight drop or something else later in the game, and the king can just sidestep here. So instead of placing a pawn on f7 immediately, opperwezen checks with the queen, trying to activate it and get it unblocked. I still like white here, of course. This bishop is hanging, so you got to be cognizant of that. Maybe bishop here is possible. That does drop e6. Oops, I can't draw errors for the life of me. That does drop e6, but then g6 drops. Of course, that can't be taken because the rook hangs. Okay, instead of that, he's going to go for h6, trying to clear this spot for pawn drop. If takes, I think pawn f7. So bishop covers that, also giving the king some room to breathe. That's a nice move. That's a nice resourceful move there. Bring the undeveloped bishop on c1 out to this crushing diagonal, a3 to f8, cutting off a lot of the king's squares. So mastertan thinks that's important enough to block off with a knight. So now the king does have access to these squares. Capture on g7. Okay, you replace that pawn on h6. Are you going to drop a pawn here? You'd love to have one more pawn in hand. That would be crushing. That would almost be mating. So now he has that pawn. The threat is pawn at f7, and that would be lights out. He's going to allow it. He's going to allow it. But, okay, so he's gotten rid of one of the attackers of the f7 square in the form of this bishop. So can he survive this? If king takes, you have knight drops. But what else is there? Queen takes, you also have knight drops. There's nothing that white needs to worry about in terms of attack on his king, so he has time to place these knight drops. But he's fallen behind on the clock again. This seems to be a recurring motif. in opperwezen's games. He gets good positions, but whether or not he can capitalize, given his time situation, is up in the air. Alright, that's a nice square for the bishop, picking off the knight, that skewer. It's also defending this knight, so that I don't think that can be taken safely, because again, knight drops, and you can even consider takes, queen takes knight, then a knight drop here, or bishop drop here, something along those lines. I think, yeah, opperwezen should have enough time to close the deal here. A pre-move, bishop f5. Okay, so he's just going to scoop up the material and ask mastertan to find some way to stay alive until he can flag opperwezen. But yeah, I think opperwezen is in control here. mastertan is burning valuable clock, trying to figure out a way to stay in the game here. You can take here, you can take here, you can just put a rook on the back rank, and that's going to be it. There's no way to defend even mate here. That's just going to hang next move, and that's going to be mate. The bishop cutting off the retreat. Okay, so first game to opperwezen. Nicely done there with the white pieces. With out of the Evans Gambit. Yeah, that's interesting. I like it. I like it. 1-0 Opper. All right, guys, and we've ventured into a Crosky Gambit with the knight sack on f6. I like it. I've explained this in my other videos, of course, but the point of this is essentially just to get rid of white's big center, allow him to capture on f6. You have a pawn for the piece, but this f6 pawn is actually a fair amount of compensation because it controls these very valuable e5 and g5 spots from piece drops and pawn drops. You also have some open files to work with. It accelerates your development, so it's an interesting way of playing. Again, another enterprising way of playing. opperwezen in both these games so far, with white and with black, has found a way to venture into a gambit line. Up to 22 specs so far. That's respectable. Okay, so there's stuff in the air like bishop takes here with the this discovery on the knight, or check when it really works. The knight's on that square. Of course, if you play here, you have to be wary about a knight drop or knight takes here. The knight is on this square. He's going to play this discovery. I think you kind of have to take there without, if you don't want to lose material. Maybe pawn at c3. Okay, he takes that. So this is actually hanging now. Queen takes d4, queen takes, knight takes will get them material back and win a pawn in the process. When you're calculating these lines, you have to be wary that white doesn't have a second knight in hand for knight drops and mating attacks once the queens get exchanged, but I think it works here. So this bishop covers the square, so the queen takes d4 is no longer possible. He is going to release attention on g2 now. Okay, this does bring the bishop out, but this is going to be a perennially weak square there now. Knight f4 covering that. Alright, do you want this bishop in hand? Not yet. He's just going to calmly bring the rook to the open file and activate that piece. Notice there's no bishop along this diagonal, as there often is in the Italian, so bringing the rook onto this file and kind of disregarding the f7 spot is not such a big or necessary consideration. So it's nicely active piece now, pawn at g5, securing his knight and attacking f4, controlling some nice squares here. h4 and f4. So if takes, and this can't take back, so that's not an option. If you move this knight, then this is going to hang. So mastertan is in a bit of a quandary here in game 2. opperwezen managing his clock there this game as well. Okay, so if you take, then he's going to take here, I think, but that does drop e3. Yeah, so opperwezen is going to go up in material here, or at least he's going to get his piece back. Yeah, of course, I think this is... I'd be tempted to say this is already winning for black. Or at least he has a stable advantage, I think. Yeah, because you're going to get all this play. You can play bishop here, play knight here, you can take here first and then play bishop here. You can even just push this, skewer or fork those two pieces. Lots of options here. Yeah, he's just going to get that material. Getting all these weird notifications from Facebook after I made an account for my Crazyhouse stuff to contact some people, but it's annoying. Anyway, I think I was going to say I think black is winning, and I still think that. That's a nice move to cover some important squares here. Queen comes on to g4, very nice attacking square. I don't see white surviving this. So pawn here, you can take one of the knights. Pawn here takes, and if that's recaptured, then you just have knight f3, king sidesteps, and then a diagonal piece on the g2 mate. So pawn g3 wasn't going to do the trick. He has to block off this square, and with a knight no less. Okay. So I think the point is you can't take here now because the knight recaptures and covers the square, but there must be mate here somewhere. Maybe it's possible to take here. That's not even necessary, I don't think. If you had another rook in hand, you'd have some other mate ideas. You can just activate this queen. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Now you're attacking this, attacking this, attacking. You can always sack here if you want. Yeah, that's nasty. He's just going to go for the two pieces. Okay. This queen, of course, covers a ton of real estate on the king side, so there's no worries about knight and queen drops. It's going to be too much. Mastertan, of course, never resigns. He's the never give up, never surrender variety, and this is going to be mate. The rook cuts off this file, importantly. Now you have... where's the mate? You can just play pawn here, and then bishop there is going to mate. That does the trick. Nicely done, okay. So that's 2-0 to opperwezen. Alright, see if he shakes it up this time or goes for the same Evans gambit, b4. He's going for it again, I like it. I like it. c3, d4. So now it's going to be on mastertan to find an improvement from last game, because remember he lost the first game in this line. So this time, instead of bringing the bishop to e7, he retreats it to a5. I'm not sure what it's doing on this diagonal exactly, but let's see what his idea is down the line. Okay, so can you take e4? I guess you can. Okay, so now this bishop is actually fairly active. It's the knight can't develop comfortably, the rook can't come to the e-file comfortably, so yeah, that's actually a nicely placed bishop now that things have sort of clarified in the center here and opened up. It's actually a better place on this diagonal than it would be on this diagonal presently. Alright, so you have to at least look at sacks on f7 in positions like these. They're open. You don't have any follow-up with like queen b3, e5. Okay, I do like that move because the knight can't come to the center as it would like to when it's kicked like this. It has no really productive forward moves here because of course the knight covers. Whoops, the knight covers these squares and the queen covers this square as well. But maybe knight b4 could be considered, but what's it really hitting, right? So he just elects to retreat it to e7, maybe reroute it to the king side eventually. So now the queen's activated d4. That's a nice move because it's hitting g7 and this knight here. And of course the bishop covers e2, nor does black have a knight in hand or any way to get a knight in hand. So there are no forks that you need to worry about with this queen on d4, which you often do need to be cognizant of when you've castled and you move your queen to d4. But of course that's not a problem here. So now you're just going to hit the dark squares. Pawn here, pawn here, pawn here, bishop out here. One of those, yeah. This is very easy play for white here. And maybe black's able to defend. It's very possible that he can defend here. But white's moves just seem much more natural, whereas black is going to have to be very precise, I feel. Knight comes out to guard this square, but his dark squares are going to collapse. Now this rook, I like that move. Instead of recapturing here, he's just going to bring his rook here to g8, and should he ever capture here, they'll be bearing down the king side, and this knight's going to stay here, pressuring the queen. Okay, so pawn e6 is necessary to cover that knight. And now this bishop swings out to this diagonal, pressurizing the dark squares. Do you want that knight? No, probably not yet, because he just takes your tempo on the queen. So what's your play? You can, I was going to say you could even consider taking one of these knights and like placing here, but that's not necessary at all, I feel, right now. You'd like to get this knight out and connect your rooks, but maybe that's a little bit too slow. Maybe not. Maybe it's called for here, but maybe something a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more, something that will place a little bit more pressure on black immediately. It's called for. So opperwezen taking a few seconds, a few valuable seconds as his time ticks under a minute here to consider what his best way forward is. He could just take this bishop, right? fail to see that that was hanging there for a second. Okay, so if that's taken, then you take the knight and place a pawn on h7. Okay, and if it took with the f pawn, of course, then this would hang. So rook takes here, takes on f7. Yeah, I like that move. That's clever. And now he's going to scoop up this bishop now that he's created some light square weaknesses as well. Interesting play there from opperwezen. Again, he's down the clock, but he's fighting here. He has all the chances here in this position. Ooh, at b2. I didn't see that at first. It's going to pick up this rook, but is that so important? Probably not. Although I don't know. It might prove to be important here, with mastertan just kind of hanging on here. I think mastertan is often underappreciated as a defender, actually. He's incredibly tough to break through. Like, you may get a good position on him out of the opening, but he's just so good at defending and figuring out, you know, what squares to cover, what color complexes that he needs to solidify, and it's tough to break through, even when he's down material, even when he's down in position. And that's exactly what he's displaying right now. But opperwezen, of course, is an equally strong attacker. Alright, picking off that knight, that can't be your capture because of the smother mate, so the pawn at g7 covering off that square from the smother. Now the queen is hanging. Can you take here? No, because then you have... Ooh, he's going to go for it. Maybe he had to go for it there because there's nothing more, nothing better in that position. But you can take... Whoops. You can take here and then promote, or you can just, yeah, that can be safely captured. Black has a queen, but he has nothing. He has no squares to put it on, to use it, really. There's mate hanging in the air with a few captures on f7 and queening threats. Opperwezen with 10 seconds to mastertan's 12 now, and ticking. I think this is going to be mate. I think opperwezen has found a way to clinch this third game here. Or he's just going to do it on the clock. One of the two. He can take here now. Bishop here. Okay, just going to take that queen. He's perfectly safe at home, and now he has mate with the queen. Okay, I was going to say g7 mate, but that... Okay, he can get him on the clock, or with a knight smother as well. So, okay, game 3 goes to opperwezen now. Coming out swinging 3-0. Very strong showing so far. And now we're getting this knight f6 line again. Maybe he's going to go for the sack again. I like this play. It's really fun play to watch here. He's going to go for another sack line, a gambit line of a pawn. White has 2 pawns in hand to black's 1, and now, yeah, you're just going to claim some more central space here and open up this bishop. And this pawn is actually doing a good job of covering the d5 square. You can always replace a pawn here later if you really want to, or you can use that pawn elsewhere. But okay, so we hung the e5 pawn. Was that necessary? I wasn't really paying attention there. Let me scroll back just a few moves, see what happened. e5, knight f3. Oh, it looks like he just hung that pawn. Ah, no, of course it didn't. The oldest trick in the book, right? That can't really be safely taken because if it takes here and then the queen comes out and scoops up that knight. Yeah, that's... Not sure how I didn't see that on the first go around, but okay, that was it there in the position. Of course, opperwezen planned that. Queen's going to move away, and now a knight at g4 is the threat. Or knight at e4, but this is probably stronger. There it takes, this knight takes. So if here, maybe you're just going to step the king back. And then this knight, it has to move, and then this would hang, so instead he's going to place it on e4. Okay. And you can take here next. So if the king steps back, play pawn here. Maybe just want to take here first. I looked briefly at a pawn at f2, but after takes, what have you really accomplished? Maybe you could sack here, but I don't think it's leading anywhere. Opperwezen chooses pawn at h3. Okay, I was going to say probably take here and then pawn at h3, but maybe this is more precise, I'm not sure. Alright, mastertan scooping up the material on f6 while he still can. Now trade happens on c3, and g2 drops. Okay, so you can't really go here because a knight will appear on this square, forking these two pieces. Maybe you can. Here, knight here, there. Takes and takes. He's just going to take here first. Okay, this queen can't swing over to here with check as I would like to, because actually all this territory is controlled by these bishops. This is not really an option either, because you can just place a bishop here with tempo. And now that's an important move, I feel. Yeah, that's a good move from opperwezen. So you can always take here when you need to. You probably want to place a knight here first, or a pawn here, or something like that. But eventually you're going to have to take here, I think. Black would love to have another knight in hand for knight at h3 and pawn g2 to follow. Although the bishop does control the queening square. But, okay, pawn d6. Instead of knight d6, he goes pawn d6. Oh, that okay, so that was his idea. That's cutting off these squares from the king, and that's going to be mating. Okay, opperwezen didn't quite see that one. That goes, first game going to mastertan, so 3-1 now. And we got a French. Capture on e4. I think that's the most common line after knight c3. Pretty standard stuff. Knight comes to f6. You have a choice in these lines whether you want to bring it to f6 or to swing it out to f5 or to g6. Mastertan goes for f6 here. Opperwezen declines the trade and instead routes the knight to g5 where it can sack on f7 and now bring this knight to g5. Okay. This pawn is under fire right now, so you're going to have to defend that eventually, I feel. So I was looking at stuff like queen e2, pressurizing this square, but then this just drops with tempo, so that's going to be a problem. He could take a timeout and play something like c3 or bishop e3, but bishop e3 would be hit by knight drops, and c3 weakens this square, and it's also slow. So instead of defending this directly, he's going to go on the attack and place his pawn on e5, hitting this knight. So if that knight moves, let's say here, okay, so when this knight moves, this is going to hang. That's the point. Yeah, and that's important. If you activate this queen and skip up a pawn with tempo, then things have certainly gone in your favor without allowing this to drop. Do you maybe even want to counterattack this knight? Here, takes, but then you have a knight drop here. You can't really do that. You can't give up this square. You'd love to kick this knight away so that you can safely take this pawn when you need to. But okay, the queen comes out, and I think the important point of that is that it gives the king another square to run to if it needs to, and it also activates the queen. So that's probably a good move there. And now you have some coverage in the center here. Can you get away with taking here and getting the two pieces for the queen? Probably not, so it doesn't. Alright, opperwezen blasting open the center. Just trying to open up lines here with his more active pieces. So if takes here on c3, then you have knight at g8, and that would be mating, because the queen cuts off all these squares. So if takes, knight here, rook takes, takes knight, king back, and rook here would have been mate. So of course mastertan didn't allow that, but this still must be crushing somehow. And this hangs. Looking at stuff like pawn f7 doesn't quite work here because you don't have another pawn in hand. But this is possible. What else? You can just develop this bishop. I don't really see a problem with just taking here, but okay, opperwezen just wants to solidify things here along this diagonal before he does anything too radical here in the center. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, he's up on time. He has a commanding position. No reason to play anything terribly risky. Maybe this was just simply best. Maybe the stuff I was looking at doesn't even work. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's going to do it. Mastertan here, 10 seconds to opperwezen's minute 30, and opperwezen has a winning position here. But Mastertan's not going to give up easily. Now I have a knight drop here, picking this queen off. You can just take here. Anything wins, really. There's got to be mate. No, the knight covers the square, but oh, nice picturesque finish there with the knights covering all these squares. Nicely done from opperwezen. 4-1. That was a pretty way to finish that game off. And we've got a 4 knights. All right. See if he goes for d5. He does. He's going for asymmetrical and open positions in this match, it seems. All right. Knight appears on e3. You have a choice whether you want to put the knight on e3 or c3. These kinds of lines. You don't have to, but of course it's one of the 2 most often played moves. So I had some tension with the knights. Now the bishop is activated. You don't really want to block along on the c6 square because you can just take this. Maybe you have to because the knight does cover that square, so it is possible. Maybe you could have taken. No, that didn't work because takes, and then you have a pawn drop here, and the queen is on that, so that would have been nasty. So now you can just get some material. No, you can't. I was going to say takes, something like this, but then once he gets the knight in hand, then he has a knight drop here. So that can't be done. What about? No, that probably doesn't work. I was looking at queen takes, like a pawn e2, knight here, but that would just be mate, right? Because the queen cuts off this file. So you can't play this because the knight just mates immediately. So what's your idea here? Bishop d8, bishop d8 covers some important squares. Maybe you just want to cut off the. No, I think bishop d8 is worth considering. You don't want to take here because then you can play like pawn c3 or something, and then knight at c7, and the queen is threatened. But maybe you can take and like drop your queen back to cover this square. No, just the simple bishop c7. Okay, I was saying bishop d8, but bishop c7 is probably a little bit more active. Haven't been paying too much attention to the chat, but it's on my name. Oh. Okay, so now b4 does drop. Mastertan has centralized his knight on d4. Just a position here. F5 square seems like an immediately weak square to hit. A knight drop there, perhaps. Or even, maybe you can even play this knight here and allow the queen trade. No, knight at F5 is probably more solid. Yeah, opperwezen actually played earlier today against Jan Lee. Jan Lee's shown up in the chat here, and won't spoil that result, but it was a good match. Yeah, mastertan getting a lot of activity with these knights. That's often a theme in these sorts of openings, where you get like e4, d5, and the queen comes out early with like a Scandi, or even out of this 4-knight Scandi or whatever. When you have an exchange on d5 and the queen comes out, white is going to get a lot of tempo with minor pieces on your queen, and whether or not you can keep your queen active is kind of going to determine your fate without getting trapped. That's easier said than done. So, okay, I mean, it looks like he has a lot of coverage here. I actually like black's position quite a lot. This knight is dropped, and now, yeah, you have 2 knights in hand. You have lovely coverage with these complementary bishops covering all the important squares around your king. Queen is actually nicely positioned as well in coordination with those bishops. Yeah, I don't see this working for mastertan. He's kind of gone all out here to try to provoke some weaknesses, but you can probably just play bishop here. Bishop here, what's the follow-up? If pawn here, you just move the rook. If takes, you can just recapture. You have way too much coverage here around your king, way too many pieces. I think this is game black. Could have just taken that, actually. But now, yeah, taking on g2 opens up the f3 square for a knight. Now you're going to get attacking chances along the light squares. Opperwezen, though, with 15 seconds, and the queen still cuts off this escape route for black. Maybe it would have been safer instead of stacking on g2, just take here first and solidify that area of the board, because now there's some pressure. Opperwezen has managed to let mastertan have some pressure given his time situation. But no, this must be mating. This is mating. Knight here. It's going to do the trick. Queen takes, knight takes, and then a queen drop. That's going to be mating. Nicely done from opperwezen, managing to convert here with time dwindling once again. 5-1. All right, another Italian, another Evans, perhaps. Nope. Or maybe. Yep. Castles first, then b4. Okay. So I like this line. We've had some really interesting, really innovative, and new positions instead of treading old territory, old paths. Opperwezen is taking the road less traveled here. I'd be interested to look in the opening database and see just how often this Evans Gambit idea has been played, and whether or not it's actually sound. But okay, this time the bishop drops back to e7 again. I think we saw that in game 1. First time this line, he dropped the bishop back to e7. He lost. Second time, he dropped the bishop back to a5. Maybe he won that game. I don't remember. Maybe not. This time he's trying this line again. We have the sack on f7 again, and the d5 push. Okay. So going down well, not common, but the same line is what I'm looking for as the line we played in the first game. Similar one anyway. Alright, you get that knight in hand, and now you have knight drop on e5 to look out for. Often pawn h6 is an idea, but the bishop is on these dark squares, so it's not so strong right now. But if knight e5, then the king can just step back somewhere. That's an interesting move. That's taken, then you get a queen trade, and black doesn't want to allow that. So instead, the king takes, and now you drawn the king into the open, and now you have some pressure along the e-file. That's a nice move, really nice move there from opperwezen. That's not a move that occurred to everybody there. Pawn on e6. Alright, nice move, knight at g5, exploiting this pen. Now you can take here and take with check. Is there anything stronger? Maybe pawn at e5? No, that serves to block off the file after you capture here, maybe. This is hanging, actually, amazingly. Okay, so you do capture here, and now pawn at e5. Okay, that's probably a little bit better iteration of that line. Although I'm not sure why you couldn't just take your first with check. Not sure. But yeah, in the vast majority of these games so far, opperwezen has been the one in the driver's seat attacking, and mastertan has been defending very hard. Very well in most games, of course, but he's been on the back foot, it seems. And whether or not that's his preferred mode of play is questionable. I'm not sure whether he prefers attacking or defending. Quite capable of both, of course. Alright, mastertan trying to construct the Great Wall of China, as it has been called, around his king with all these pawns. He's gonna get every pawn on the board here in the center around his king. Look at this. Another pawn in hand to boot. Now the pawn just needs to appear on d5 or e5. Alright, opperwezen is of course considering sacking on d6. He goes for it. Goes for it, queen for a pawn, but that's a move you need to kind of blast open the position here. So knight at c4 must be looked at. Knight at f7 must be looked at. I don't think knight at f7 works because after takes there, if you take the queen, black has knight drops here, and that's probably going to be mating because he'd have another knight in hand, a second knight in hand. So I don't think that works. I don't think you can pick that queen off. Maybe pawn or knight c4 is necessary here. c4. He's going to take the bishop. Okay. So now, if you capture here, you must have seen some kind of forcing mate or some forcing line. If you take here, I think you're mated, right? There must be a mate. Ah, no, this bishop h4. That's important. It covers f2. So that means after knight h3, you can safely move your king to h1 without worrying about being smothered. Knight here, king sidesteps. Queen here takes. This is covered. That's an important nuance. This bishop on the square. All right, so I didn't realize that at first that was covered. So now you can safely take that queen. Okay, what has he seen here after king h1? What have you seen here? Takes. Is there a knight here? There might be a knight here. The rook opens up. That's why. That's what he saw. But there's no way this is enough. But he gets this with check. Maybe I spoke too soon. King g3. No, he's going to allow this to drop with check. King here. Now the king runs. Knight can't step back here. Square is occupied. Bishop h4. You can just take that, I think, and then run back. Yeah, I think he's found a way out. I was a little bit worried for him there for a second. I thought there might be some sort of perpetual, or he might have been getting some play, but no, it's just not enough. He doesn't have enough material, and he's able to escape with this king over here to the center. Meanwhile, black does have some safety, so okay, white has a ton of material in hand, but whether or not he can get it on the board in time is another question. Oh, nicely done from mastertan, sneaking in a nice smothered mate there with the knight at h2. Oh, that's sneaky, and that is heartbreaking for opperwezen, who had a winning position, I think, at one point. But all right, sneaky mastertan comes back with a win there. I think that's 2-5. When Horde meets Crazyhouse, I like that. That's a good name. You know how on chess.com, or not chess.com, but on chessgames.com, how all the games have different appellations, like the Evergreen game or the Immortal game or whatever it may be. Fisher's Immortal. I think that would be a good name for that last one. Is when Horde meets Crazyhouse, with that massive pawns there in the center. mastertan's pawn wall against opperwezen's piece play. When Horde meets Crazyhouse. Yeah, that was crazy. That knight h2 caught me by surprise too. It's easy. It's an easy move to miss that little smother there when you think you're safe because you have the diagonals covered, or at least you didn't think you had anything to worry about from diagonal pieces. But then all of a sudden he gets a knight in hand, and you weren't looking at that h2 square, and you're kind of in time scramble mode. Yeah, it's easy to miss. So I feel for him there. I could very well be just misevaluating that position, and maybe mastertan had that all along, but. I think it was more of a save win than anything else. So okay, this is interesting. You're gonna get the queen back after a trade on c6. Queen's in hand. Opperwezen this time has knight in hands to mastertan's pawns, but mastertan has his pieces in play already. So okay, I think it's even material, right? Yeah. Yeah, I've got to agree with Flores here. I just took a quick peek at the chat here, but I do appreciate when players put some effort into the preparation and such, and take this seriously and want to put on a good show for the spectators and perform well for themselves, and take this event with the gravity or gravitas that it deserves. And I think both these players have been preparing, as a matter of fact. Opperwezen just seems to have had the better preparation this time. But I wouldn't be surprised if mastertan has put some hours in as well, with his own opening lines. As a matter of fact, I think I remember him preparing some Spanish Ruy Lopez lines back for the chess.com Crazyhouse Championship, that Swiss style event, way back in December of 2016. Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's prepared stuff as well. Yeah, and I agree with Fishy Vishy there as well, that you kind of have to if you want to come out of these openings with an edge and come away from these matches with a win. The competition is just so stiff that if you don't put in that little extra work, that little extra mileage of an hour or two of preparation, maybe you don't survive the opening. I don't know. It's a high level of a play here. Then again, there are probably guys like 12-10 who can just fly by the seat of their pants and play whatever and get away with it. Just their natural intuition is so finely tuned that they can do that. And as I was blabbering on here, Black resigns. Okay. White must have had an overwhelming position there, but I was kind of in blabber mode and not really correctly evaluating the position. So okay, that game went to mastertan there, so that makes it what, 5-3? Is that right? 5-3? Let me check in chat. Okay, and we have this nice e3 French again. Slightly different line from the first time. I don't think we saw trade on e4, which is what we saw the first time. But okay, when a knight appears on g3, mastertan likes to push the h-pawn. We've seen that many times before. So yeah, mastertan is still very much in this match. Opperwezen needs one more game to clinch the full victory here, the full point. Because 6 is, of course, the tipping point out of 10 games. mastertan needs to win the next 2 to tie this match. Maybe just d3. No, b4. He likes this b4 push. Ooh, that's nice. That's a nice way to activate the bishop. I wouldn't have even considered that. But yeah. So do you want to take this? He does. And now, do you want to replace a bishop on this diagonal? That's a nice little, that's a cheeky place to put it on this diagonal. I was just going to probably replace it on a3, but d6 is cheeky because after the capture, the knight comes into d6 with a fork, so that can't be taken. Maybe it can be even. Maybe you can get the 2 pieces for the queen, because this square is covered, so there's no mate if you do take that. But yeah, I don't know. mastertan decides it's too dangerous to allow the queen to drop. But now, okay, do you want to take the rook? Maybe takes rook on the back rank. No, not yet. Okay, so you're just going to take on h5. Activate the queen should that be captured, and in the meantime, if it's not, you're threatening g7, so queen takes here, I'm expecting. And now you're threatening takes, and that can't be your capture because you just have an immediate mate on f7. There, probably just take that, right? Is there something better after like takes? Probably not. I see no reason not just to take that with the knight. Oh, that's another cheeky move. Look at that. Queen h6. That can't be taken because the knight here is smothered. He has these squares cut off. These are the sort of moves that opperwezen sees. He sees that the king is cut off, so that your natural inclination, if you're opperwezen, is to find a way to check the king. And how do you do that? Knight g7. So that means this square is open for the queen. Now you can just attack this square. That's really clever. All right, so now the queen is attacked because the knight covers the square from the knight smother. Now he is going to attack the queen here. Very interesting. Probably take here, I think. Or yeah, I'd say take this rook. Otherwise, your position might, I was going to say fall apart, but okay. So this is interesting. He doesn't have another pawn in hand, but he's contending that he already has a king cut off, and he doesn't really want to take here and remove this defender of these squares, which is cutting the king off. And he's contending that he can somehow get another pawn in hand, which would be mate. There, takes mate. But I don't know if that was correct, because he doesn't have a pawn right now, and he has no easy means of getting one. I mean, he can take here or something, but that again relinquishes these squares. Taking here, of course, relinquishes these squares. So you don't want to take here, because then you have stuff like add e3. He has his queen in hand, or even like if you take here, maybe you can even consider taking a knight. So we have a knight drop somewhere after a pawn drops, and yeah, this is tricky. That's why I wanted to get rid of that rook immediately, just taking there immediately and then thinking. Bishop here. Okay, so that has to be taken. That's forcing. What's his idea? It takes. Do you take that? So, okay. You don't want to take that, I don't think. Maybe you can get away with it, but yeah, you probably just want to activate your pieces and play stuff with the check while you can. So yeah, I think opperwezen kind of blew his chance by not taking that rook when he had the chance. And instead of going for something a little bit more ambitious, but a little bit more shaky too, a little bit riskier. But I think this game is going to go to mastertan, guys, if you'll permit me calling it with 5 seconds here on the clock. Mastertan has tempo and all the time in the world to figure out what the best way to proceed with this attack here is. Jan Lee pointing out bishop takes c7 instead of queen takes g6. I must have missed that. But if Jan Lee's pointing it out, then I'm sure it was much better than whatever I saw. So okay, that game does go to mastertan. Mastertan putting up a great show here with 4-5 now. 4-5. Still in it with a very viable chance of coming back to tie this match. So this game, as I say, is for all the marbles, and opperwezen is going for the e4 d5 line again with the 4 knights. Queen swings out to h5 this time instead of a5. As a matter of fact, I think they played this line before, the queen swinging out to h5. Yeah, this has been a great match so far. Very evenly matched opponents. Alright, queen's in hand. Sacking on c2, so if that's taken with what? Oh my goodness. This is awful. With whatever, then you have a pawn at d3. So instead, bishop b5 first. Again, exploiting the pressure along the diagonal on this c6 square in particular. And I think opperwezen got burned last time for allowing this sort of idea. But okay, maybe c6 here. If you take, then you can take with check and open up this square. You can't sidestep the king because queen here is going to mate. Pawn d7 is possible, of course, but it you kind of want to keep this pawn in hand and use it here on white's king in the center. But opperwezen thinks it's necessary to expend that pawn on c6 and keep a pawn on c7, so that after knights get traded, then there's no knight drop here. Yeah, I agree with the chat here. I would take white, I think. It's very sharp, of course. Both sides have chances in this 10th game, but I think white has the edge. So let's look at takes, pawn here. If you take, then black's going to take here, bishop takes. The knight covers these squares from immediate pawn drops. Maybe you have a queen d3. Yeah, mastertan calculating here. He's going to take with the knight instead, opening up the potential for this discovery, which can be nasty, of course, also threatening mate in 1, queen d8, but allowing this. So he must have calculated that he is safe on the light squares with his bishop covering these squares. But I think you got to start with this knight takes e3. I don't see anything else you want to start with, except maybe queen d6. But you kind of want to get the material with check while you can. So takes, bishop takes. Okay, so he's going to play queen d7 and allow this knight to drop if white even wants to take that. Takes pawn here, king here, looks safe to me, but maybe he doesn't even want to take that. Maybe he just wants to drop a pawn here on d5, which would create even more pressure along the light squares and block off this check. Or yeah, he's just going to take this. I thought that was possible as well. So he's just going to grab the material and say, what now? And opperwezen is his only aggressive piece right now, which isn't even really an aggressive piece, is his queen, because it's active, but it's also very defensive. It's going to have to stay guarding the d8 square, and a lot of these squares around the king side as well. Otherwise, he has no active pieces whatsoever. This rook is dead. This rook is dead. This bishop is defending some stuff. But this bishop is quite dead. It's buried behind these pawns, which has, as a matter of fact, you often see these two pieces become dead in these lines. But it's really coming to bite him here. All right, so that can't be taken with the queen because queen d8 will mate. Maybe you have to take here and just allow this to drop and open up the rook's defense of d8. You can't take here because, of course, pawn f7 would be game over. Now you can take that queen, or you can even just take on f7. Yeah, that's probably going to be enough. Knight here, and pawn drop or queen drop here is going to seal the deal. There for mastertan, fighting back to even up the score, 5-5 here in the 10th game. Well fought from mastertan, never giving up, and coming back from a deficit of, what, 5-2, I think it was, maybe even 5-1 at one point. Yeah, I think it was 5-1, and mastertan winning, maybe even, I was going to say 4 games in a row. Maybe it wasn't 4 games in a row, but nonetheless, well fought from both parties, and that's going to be a half point to both contenders. So let's take a quick look at how that's going to impact the standings here. Right now, we have 12-team Jan lead, Blitz Bullet. mastertan and opperwezen are down at number 6 and 7 respectively at 1.5 out of 4 matches. opperwezen has 0 out of 2. So let's see how this impacts things. opperwezen. Let's scroll to mastertan, that's going to be 0.555, and same goes for mastertan. We can find him, opperwezen, 0.555, and okay, that's going to put opperwezen at 3 matches played, mastertan at 5 matches played, and mastertan scoots up to 3rd place there with that half a point, and opperwezen is on the board with half a point as well at 7th place over Ekarf. So, okay, everything to fight for here still in this Crazyhouse World Championship. Good game for both players there.